the equation to keep in mind is, so for, or open, you've got federal workers being unpaid, so that's about 3 million people, which is a lot of fucking people. And then SNAP recipients currently in a fight against the Trump admin, which yeah, that's definitely a strong consideration. Open, keep, closed. 22 million ACA tax credit recipients, and I think the average average savings ACA tax credit. Like, if you really want to take the emotion out of it, premium payments would more than double. So, yeah, it's having your tax credit, having your healthcare costs double. Oh, that's fucking tough. Okay, so according to KFF, which is, I feel like I should, the Knowles, is that it? Man, I feel so callous to like break it down into like some sort of math equation. I just don't know what else you can do. I don't know how you weigh harm now versus harm later, invisible harm versus invisible harm. Because, federal workers not being paid, flights being delayed, people missing Thanksgiving is a lot more visible, and that's a lot of pain now. I don't know. There's a lot of weights and balances that you have to account for when you're looking at whether or not this ending this shutdown was the right move, and what was the potential gain. Was there a an El Dorado, a world where the ACA tax credits are saved, SNAP is saved? Like, I don't know. So, premium payments in 2026, yeah, so it'll increase quite significantly. It's by what? I don't want to do that math in my head. $1,016. So, okay, you're going to have 22 million people paying an average of don't worry, Oberfell will be heard after the Fifth Circuit rules on their Oberfell related play. Bleh. Likely here's. Alright, can you translate that to English for me? As you can probably imagine, my brain is a little bit elsewhere. uh. Okay, so for the SNAP recipients, it's like, means they have a case that serves as a vehicle to overturn Obergefell, and the lack of denial message implies the dissenters who want to revisit it already know that they're going to get what they want. Oh, Lord. I thought I saw a thing that said the Supreme Court wasn't going to hear it. I guess not. Or the Supreme Court said they weren't, and then this is just another route that they'll take to get there. Not sure. So, I mean, how long was the SNAP emergency chest? 2027? Alright, well, that's a ways away. It's not that far away, but... How long was SNAP funded for? I suppose it's state by state. So, that's tough to say how long it would have kept going, but yeah, I don't know. I'm quite torn on this, a lot more than probably most Dems. I know people are calling for primaries, calling for this is the worst thing. I'm very torn. I'm very torn. The majority of the court doesn't like that case. Will jump at being able to revisit it. Maybe. I'm not following it that closely. Fuck. Well, we can watch what the Democrats had to say on it before we watch Joe Biden. Oh, man.
That would be drafted by the Democrats concerning health care and the ACA. That is a big step, because otherwise there's no way for the minority to get a bill onto the floor of the U.S. Senate. It has to be through the office of the majority leader. So that was a major step.
Always. Remember, legislation doesn't matter. The court controls the law and makes the law. No point in paying attention to bills if the court has the finals. I hear you. So, yeah.
To get the majority leader to agree to make that commitment tonight on the Senate floor. So,
so the part of the deal for ending the shutdown is that there will be a vote. There's a verbal commitment to vote on the ACA tax credits. I guess the thinking behind this would be, if it's actually put to a vote, 1-for-1, single issue, will Republicans actually vote against ACA tax credits? It would be a bad look if they did. I don't think it's tough to say. I would imagine they'd come up with some excuse, and they're probably going to try and get their messaging together on it. Like, claim some sort of fraud in the tax credits, claim that they're going to replace it with something better. Well, they're not, obviously, because they don't have a fucking plan for anything. They just hate Obama, and thus Obamacare. But, Yeah, we'll see.
The sum is we are closer to the possibility of work on the ACA tax credits for the people of this country than we were yesterday and than we were a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or a month ago. So this agreement tonight.
Well, why don't they just fix the system? Yeah, okay. The problem is our insurance-based system is very complex. So it's not something you could just fix. I mean, you could allow competition across states. You could allow transparency with pricing. You can like kick out PBMs and allow people to negotiate more directly, like insurance companies to be more direct with pharmaceutical companies. If anything, the credits don't adjust to inflation means that... Yeah, but them eventually rising slowly is a lot different than them all of a sudden being dropped. Come on, that's... Of all the arguments, that's not a very strong one, is that, well, eventually inflation will price out the subsidies anyways. They were never meant to be permanent. They were meant to be replaced by something better. Yeah, okay, but that's still $1,000 a month for a lot of people. Like, the average save, yeah, it's a lot of fucking money. Even if it's not as extreme as it was, it's still keeping a lot of people within the price range for the healthcare. Like, I don't know. I don't find it very compelling to argue that inflation was going to eventually take it away. Like that's true, but I don't know. I don't think that addresses the now very much.
Is a win for the American people. And it's a win for those people that are so insistent that I'm hearing from all the time, protect our health care. Our judgment is the best way to do that is to get a bill on the floor. Is there a guarantee it will pass? No. Is it a guarantee it will pass in the House? There is actually some very strong interest in the House, a possibility of a bipartisan bill and to get a discharge petition, and then perhaps we're on the way. And we have that expression from Republican senators who are interested in working on a bill that will deal with the ACA issue and perhaps additional health care issues at the same time.
Okay, senators... So he said senators willing to...
Working on a bill, and we have that expression from Republican senators who are interested in working on a bill...
Interested in working on
deal with
a
the
bill.
ACA issue and perhaps additional health care issues at the same time. So what happened tonight...
That's not a very strong commitment, to be frank. Like, that's fine. I think it's probably good to have a single issue vote on the ACA tax credits, which are immensely popular. Do you want to talk 80-20 issues? Okay, ACA tax credit polling. Yeah, so the shutdown's technically not ended, but the cloture was reached, which means the filibuster is broken, and so now it just needs a simple majority, so it's gonna pass. Yeah, dude, like, again, I'm all for opening up, fixing the insurance, as in letting, like, competition happen. I wholeheartedly agree. I think Medicaid, Medicare should be able to negotiate. Like, I don't disagree with you here. And I don't disagree that inflation was eventually going to become a bigger issue, but as it stands today, these tax credits were keeping tens of millions of people on insurance. Like, the alternative is no insurance. Which is really fucking bad. But I agree with you. More competition, more negotiating power. Like, yes, and yeah, regulation against price gouging. I agree with all of that. I was just saying the inflation thing wasn't a very compelling argument to me. At least not now. As it eventually, absolutely. But yeah.
Is not the closing of a chapter, it's the opening of an opportunity. What the chapter it does close is the damaging shutdown that is only getting worse, that is only going to impact more and more people, and it's an opportunity for us to...
Also, no insurance. It's not enough people off insurance. Like, if you wanted to have that dramatic shock, you would need everyone to be off insurance, which it's not happening. Okay, but getting their itemized. I mean, that one TikTok that said itemized bills probably did more damage than people on the ACA tax credits getting kicked off.
to move forward on behalf of all the people of this country on the issue of health care, but also on making the federal government function. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. At a time when families
74%.
Washington's dysfunction is making life harder for families, and the last 39 days are proof of that. A record-long government shutdown paired with record-high health insurance cost increases is not the kind of history that the American people want Congress to make. Over the last several weeks, I've heard from Granite Staters who can't afford a doubling of their health insurance costs.
I'm sure you can,
heard
but
from families
not
about
now.
the deep pain that the government shutdown has caused, made worse by a president who illegally and repeatedly chose to cut off help for families who are just trying to buy groceries. After weeks of bipartisan conversations, I voted today to reopen the government so that we can get back to the work of helping Granite Staters. This agreement funds SNAP and food assistance programs, ensures that law enforcement, air traffic controllers, and other federal workers get paid, reverses the president's recent reckless layoffs and prevents them from happening in the future, and crucially, gives Congress a clear path forward to protecting people's health care. Our work to deliver relief for families now enters an important phase. Congress has 1 month to engage in serious bipartisan negotiations to extend the Affordable Care Act's expiring tax cuts that help people afford their health insurance. And let's be really clear, part of what has been happening is the time period to make that meaningful extension of these tax cuts has been dwindling. We are getting closer and closer to the time in which families have to decide whether they can buy their health insurance or not and enroll in health insurance in this coming year. So my Democratic colleagues and I have been ready to work on this issue, on extending these tax cuts for months. With the government reopening shortly, Senate Republicans now finally have to come to the table.
This logic doesn't really make sense to me. The whole point of the filibuster and keeping the shutdown is because they were unwilling to come to the table when the government was operating normally, which, like, yeah, I don't know. Look, maybe the Republicans will prove me wrong and, come to the table and we'll all have a big song and dance and great negotiation will happen. Now that they don't need the filibuster anymore because the shutdown's ended, I imagine it leaves the zeitgeist. And if the Democrats try and end it, I will be wholeheartedly against that.
Or make no mistake, Americans will remember who stood in the way. So I urge Speaker Johnson to finally return the House of Representatives into session and quickly reopen the government. And I urge all Americans in communities red, blue, and purple to continue to speak out about the importance of affordable health care so that families across America can get that critical care that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. And I thank my colleagues for their good work. The vote tonight, and you've heard all of us talking about this, the vote tonight was crucial to open the government because too many Americans, hardworking individuals, seniors, children, were suffering. I know in Nevada, particularly that is based on a service industry, tourism and travel, we are doubly hit. Tariffs, bad policies of this administration, and the shutdown was having an impact on travel to our state and quite honestly across the country.
Yeah, so, okay. Bring Republicans to the table. Zero interest in negotiation when pressure was applied. Why would they negotiate when there's no pressure being put on them? Yeah, that's my thinking on it. I feel free to disagree.
But it wasn't just that.
I don't know if the Democrats will. I don't know.
We have federal workers
We can look into that.
that were suffering. We have TSA agents.
They're all-
We have airport controllers. And we were seeing lines to our food banks in northern Nevada. These were lines that I hadn't seen since the pandemic. And the stories were horrific. Seniors in line needing food because they couldn't get access to the food that they usually would get at the federal level. One man came
I'm sure you would love that.
and refused to say who he was because he was embarrassed and said I shouldn't be here, but he needed the food. Mothers coming to the food bank to get food for their children. My colleagues know that opening the government was key to stopping that pain. But here's the thing. We can open the government and we can still fight.
Like, I feel like the ACA tax credits are a lost issue now. No shot Johnson ever brings that vote to the floor, right? Because that's a losing issue to vote against, right? Like, no one wants to vote against it, but they're never going to bring that to the floor. They'll just say, fuck you. Like, goodbye. They'll do a lot of talk about it. They're going to say, oh, we're working on the Republican healthcare plan. We're working on it. We got the Americans' interests at heart. We're looking to fix Obamacare. And then you'll never see it again.
To address this looming healthcare crisis.
Holy shit, that was
It is
fast.
true. Right now, in our states and across the country, Americans are seeing higher costs, higher premiums for their Affordable Care Act. These are people that need access to health care. I have families that rely on the Affordable Care Act and these subsidies so that their children who have a rare disease can access their medication. I have small businesses who rely on the Affordable Care Act and the subsidies to help cover the costs for their employees.
Look, this is BS, I would imagine. Again, ACA, tax credits, gone. The equation that's actually going through their heads is the is the suffering now worth stopping the suffering later? In these Democrats' heads, it was no. Reasonable minds can disagree on that. I'm not 100% sure where I fall.
This is a fight that the Republicans need to understand is not just happening in Nevada, it is happening across the country in every state, including those red states. This fight tonight is, I agree with Senator Angus, is just the beginning. This is the beginning to show and fight for Americans across the country. Let me just say this. With the government open, we can focus on passing a full bipartisan budget for 2026 that starts with a minibus that will restore funding that President Trump cut.
With what, though? Like, we just handed over... When the big, beautiful bill was being negotiated, it was being negotiated between the right half and the righter half of the Republican Party. Like, it just, there was no interest in what the Democrats had to say because they didn't need our input. I I would be amazed if we actually end up getting a vote on the ACA subsidies after this. I think 2026 budget negotiations are going to be between Republicans and other Republicans. Maybe. Who knows?
Delivers millions of dollars in critical funding to states like Nevada all across the country, and it, you will hear, blocks the administration from future rifts. We have an opportunity also to put Republicans on the record on the ACA. Are they committed to doing this? Are they committed? Leader Thune said he would come to the table on a health care once the government was open, and now he must follow through. If Republicans want to join us in lowering costs for working families, they have the perfect opportunity to show the American public. I expect Republicans to be at the table in the next few weeks. I expect the White House to be at the table. And if they do choose not to come to the table, they can own the disastrous premium increases that will continue to rise. They will own the fact that Americans across this country are going to lose access to health care. We were elected in the Senate to work on real solutions that help working families. It's our responsibility to work not only here amongst ourselves, but across the aisle to solve these problems for the Americans, make their lives a little bit easier. And that's what we have done tonight.
Maybe. Maybe, but again, these are more secondary issues to the main one at hand, which is the tax credits are no longer going to exist. So there's an order to things. First, it's should they exist, yes or no, and then how the details of it. Probably second. I just don't see a world where Republicans negotiate now that they don't have to.
So, hey everybody, I'm the cleanup hitter because I joined this group I joined it 48 hours ago.
Why would you say
not
that?
for lack of interest, and I got to applaud Gene Shaheen and this group because they have been having open meetings that anybody could participate in on negotiation. But I had my hands full focused on the Virginia elections until Wednesday morning, and as soon as that was over, I have now engaged with a particular purpose in mind. I knew the Democratic appropriators, led by Patty Murray, were going to do the very best job they could to get these three approach bills queued up and moved.
I mean, usually when you do a tax subsidy, part of it's part of it's received by the consumer and some of it's received by the producer or supplier. That's how all taxes and tax credits, subsidies, etc. work. For something as inelastic as healthcare, it's going to benefit the suppliers a lot more, so you probably have to do a lot more regulation about that. But right now, it is helping people, and now people are unable to, and without this, people are going to be unable to, afford their health care. We can deal with the price gouging after we deal with people being kicked off of healthcare altogether because they're priced out of it, you know? I agree that, you can't have insurance companies just eating all of the benefit. Like, you do need some of it to go to the people and really to the government. But
moving forward, a bill, for example, that has very robust SNAP funding, very robust funding for the VA. I had confidence in that. And I had confidence in these guys that they were going to get the best possible deal they could get from Republicans on the ACA. We were in a situation where SNAP recipients...
Also, the deal does have DSH funding. So that's good.
recipients were suffering, and there was no guarantee we would ever get to an ACA solution. Now we've got robust SNAP funding and a guaranteed vote, not a guaranteed outcome, but a guaranteed vote on ACA tax credits. But I engaged on the issue that I've been talking about for a month on the floor to Senator Thune, Katie Britt, Lindsey Graham, James.
I agree with you. But, like, if you're sick, you do both. You can address the symptoms in the short term while you work on the long-term fundamental issues. I'm just saying, while we fight on, you know, how our healthcare ought to be and what the government's role ought to be, in the meantime, we should probably make sure that most people are insured. Because uninsured people aren't just like, okay, this is very callous, but like, someone uninsured isn't just a liability to themselves. It doesn't just hurt that person. It's generally harmful to our society as a whole. Like, think about, like, if you're driving a car, if the other person doesn't have insurance, that's fucking, like, you're screwed. Oh, yeah. Okay. I hear you. I take your counterpoint in my analogy. I would say that it's a side effect, not necessarily making the underlying disease worse, because the fundamental underlying disease isn't changing. We're just pricing some people into the system, while most of the benefit gets eaten by insurance companies. Most of the financial benefit gets eaten by the insurance companies, or even like by the hospitals and pharmaceutical companies by overcharging. The insurance companies like will also be, I don't know what they come out net, but I don't know. Because ACA plans, silver plans are tacked to an average plan in the area. Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at the legislation around what the floors are.
James Langford, anybody who would listen to me on the Republican side, I've said what I need in Virginia, with 320,000 federal employees who live in households that probably encompass nearly 650 or 700,000 residents in my state, I need a moratorium on mischief. My Virginians have been suffering under this administration. The shutdown started on January 20. I need a moratorium on the punishing of the federal workforce. That's what I need. And so I joined this group to make sure that we could get important protections for federal employees. And what we have in this bill is the restoration of all the furloughed employees and a guarantee of their back pay, the restoration of all RIFT employees who got RIFT after October 1 with all of their back pay, and a guarantee of no RIFs. No RIFs going forward. 2 million federal workers, not just my 300,000, 2 million federal workers who are not uniform military now have a guarantee of no RIFs going forward. So they don't have to go into the holiday season with anxiety about what's going to show up on their email one morning at 5:30 a.m. That's a big win for 2 million federal employees, and added together with these other ingredients of robust appropriations bills and a guaranteed path forward to vote on fixing the ACA, that made me sign on and say, yes, we can do it.
Guarantee, it's a verbal guarantee, right? Like, without a scheduled vote, that you have Mitch McConnell saying, I will bring this to the floor. I have, like, pre-agreeing to it. It's tough. I don't think this vote's going to happen in any serious capacity.
I had a number of Republicans on the floor tonight said, we were amazed that you got that no RIF guarantee in there. And I'm glad that we did. And
they're falling for the Trump level tactics of, wow, I'm really surprised you were able to negotiate so masterfully this one thing. You guys are really great.
We all worked so hard on it together, and I have huge respect for my colleagues who made this happen. Thanks.
Senator, you say you're fighting on the Affordable Care Act, but what do you say to your colleagues who say this isn't a fight, this is a capitulation? You're putting together, you're agreeing to a vote on a bill that it almost certainly will not become law, and you're allowing that to happen.
Well, first of all, as long as the government shut down, the clear statement from Senator Thune and the Republican majority, and they control the Senate, the House, the White House.
So I'm just looking at like the levels at which the sticker price for insurance plans have risen, just to not speak out of my ass, you know. We do a little bit of a slower thing here, but we try and get things right.
Was we will not talk about health care with you. So there was no vote that we were going to get on the Affordable Care Act, premium tax credits. We have a guaranteed vote by a guaranteed date on a bill that we will write. Not that the Republicans will write, although I do think it's important for us to engage with them, because we need a bipartisan bill that we know is going to get enacted to provide the relief that Americans need. And I think there's a commitment on the part of many of our colleagues to do that.
But there's no guarantee this will become law.
There was never a guarantee that it would become law.
Well, just to follow up on that, Senator, because we understand that this vote will happen, but a vote on extending the tax credits, it does not guarantee that it's going to happen. So how do you explain, though, to your constituents why it was worth it to? Also,
just a heads up, apparently the sticker price was slated to raise significantly now that there's going to be a smaller risk pool, so less people paying into insurance means that the people that are on the insurance are going to have to pay more. The Kaiser Family Foundation is estimating it's going to be 26% increase with the expiration of these subsidies. Whew. Goddamn. So yeah, you have these tax credits allowing for raises, and it's been like the net spend I think is 7% annually. But you also have the counter to that, which is an expanded risk pool of more people that are paying into insurance, means that the cost is spread amongst more people. The risk pool is larger. So it's like something's rotting you away. And so there is some huge underlying issue. Splitting the risk pool seems to have slowed down the issue significantly. But yeah, there needs to be some serious work on healthcare. It's just crazy that, like, why not talk about it? I don't know.
To put up this fight for so long when in the end you did not get your key demand?
Because it wasn't working. How long would it take to not get a response to say it isn't working? In other words, it's been 6 weeks. There's been the Republicans made it clear they weren't going to discuss the health care issue, the Affordable Care Act tax credits, until the shutdown was over.
That's what they said.
We tried to keep working that for 6 weeks. It didn't happen. The vote that we have, there's not a guarantee for sure.
Yeah, I feel like you would need a guarantee, though. Look, I will. If I'm proven wrong on this, I will be happy, more than happy. I have zero faith in the Republican Party to honor their verbal agreements to bringing a vote to the floor on the ACA subsidies. That is a insanely unpopular thing to vote against, which they know they want to vote against. They already cut it out. It just was less visible. Now that it's a single issue thing, they cannot bring that to the floor. I say 5% chance this promise is honored, and that 5% is literally just a hope and a dream with a 5% margin of error.
It's more of a guarantee. Here's the way I would put it.
Clip it.
As I assessed it, there was zero chance of dealing with the ACA issue as long as the shutdown
I'm clipping
continued.
it.
Now, I don't know, 50-50? But there's a lot better
50-50? Yeah, bro, sure. Yeah. Maybe.
now than there was this morning, because nothing was happening, and there was no evidence that another week or another 2 weeks or Thanksgiving or Christmas was suddenly the Republicans want to come to us and say, oh, we want to now talk about the ACA. If they weren't going to do it by now, what's going to change in the next 2 weeks that's going to make them do it? And that was really the assessment. Again, I would say, right, as of this morning, there was a 0 chance of having a work on the ACA. Now there's a measurable chance. Will it be everything that everybody wanted? No, because we need 60 votes. And so there's going to be a negotiation. But Republicans have already started saying, well, here, if you did this or did that, maybe we can get there. So I would take a reasonable chance against no chance every day. And that's and the other piece is, we didn't really emphasize this.
Okay, so at least according, again, to the Kaiser family surveys, the jump before and after Obamacare has been pretty stable. Like, sticker price total premiums, it's been roughly $3,000 to $4,000 a year. Annual premium for a family. In like 2005 to 2010, this is $10,880 to $13,770. That's a 5-year jump. And then from 2010 to 2015, from 13,000 to 17,000. Like, it doesn't feel like Obamacare significantly had this massive effect. Rather, that insurance premiums were just going up regardless. So
There are 3 important appropriations bills in this that would lock in SNAP for the rest of the year at a very substantial rate. Plus other benefits, veterans funding is guaranteed if we can get these 3 bills through. So there's a plus on that. And I think the odds are that we have a better chance of doing something about the ACA than we did not going into this. At some point, you have to decide, what is the best strategic step forward. And we believe that the evidence is that what we were doing wasn't working, and therefore, let's try something else.
And the real question is, why would a president of the United States pit hungry children against sick children? And that is what President Trump has done.
jeez.
I mean, this is outrageous. We can't reach agreement on government funding, so the government shuts down, and even though the law is
I don't know how to
clear
make a table.
that he could fund SNAP benefits during a shutdown, he did not. And then he also said, and by the way, I don't really care if people's health insurance premiums get so high they can't afford their care. That's on Donald Trump. My vote today was to do 2 things, both equally morally important and imperative. One is to make sure that the government is functioning so that our kids eat, so that our elderly citizens eat, so that our air traffic controllers can get some sleep and earn money, get paid while they are working, so that our veterans are protected, and continue the fight to a realistic platform to get the premium tax cuts done. And if that is not successful, then shame on the Republican Party and shame on Donald Trump.
So, oh my God, it is actually a strongly worded letter. No. Come on.
But the American people will see who stands with them on health care and who does not.
They won't bring the vote to the floor.
And that will be the platform of the next stage of the fight. I hope we can find bipartisan agreement on an extension of those premium tax credits. In New Hampshire, couples who are 60 years old or so, earning $85,000 a year, are seeing like a $15,000 increase in their insurance premiums. This has to get fixed. And we have about a month to do it. before the harm gets to be irreparable. And again, if the Republicans can't come to the table and do something reasonable on this and make sure that people can afford their health care and that the whole private commercial market also doesn't see skyrocketing increases, then shame on them.
What do you say to the millions of Americans who are already in the Obamacare exchanges, seeing premiums skyrocketed, who were hoping because of what you all said that they would get answers on what their premiums would be now, but have to wait weeks longer since you've decided to open the government without immediate action on the subsidies?
Well, as Senator Hassan said so well, Republicans weren't providing any commitment or even a willingness to vote or a willingness to discuss extending the premium tax credits.
Yeah, this is something too. It really is. What is that coefficient? How long was it going to be? We'll never know. I don't know. My line, I think, is if it was going to be before Thanksgiving, then keep it shut down. If it was going to be after, then just open it. Try again some other time. I think. Because, I mean, the admin has shown that they have no interest in the well-being of the people so long as they get some nebulous agenda through. So it doesn't, like, you know, as people with hearts and minds and that can feel for both SNAP recipients, federal workers, and ACA tax credit recipients, I like it. Like, for everyone else, it's a difficult question. For the Trump admin, it's not even a question. It's fuck them.
We have the opportunity to do that now, and we will hold their feet to the fire.
And just quick, most of us up here in the group of 8 that voted for this tonight have voted repeatedly with the Democratic strategy of we're not opening and we want you to take action on the ACA tax credit. But after 40 days, it wasn't going to work. So here we are in a situation, and this was the reality. SNAP recipients suffering, nothing happening on ACA. The vote tonight will be full, and not just last year's, but full and robust SNAP funding for SNAP recipients and a path on the ACA. So from suffering and no path, we've now got robust benefits and a path. And that's what.
Sorry, the subsidies go to the people. They're tax. Unless we're talking about different subsidies, the tax credits are just so people can afford the existing prices that were already rising at 7% a year before the ACA was even like a thought.
We tell our constituents.
Senator, if I could just ask, there's already calls now from Democrats in the House that are saying Leader Schumer should step aside, he should be replaced. You know, the 8 of you today voting with Republicans to advance this plan to reopen the government, does that just further the divides within the Democratic Party right now?
No. When I talk to my constituents in New Hampshire, you know what they say to me? They say, why can't you all just work together to address the problems that are facing this country? We put the Senate back on a path to start doing that today, and we're going to continue.
The full healthcare deep dive is like 4 months overdue.
Need to work that way.
All right, one last question.
If the president doesn't agree and Republicans block the extension of AC subsidies, would you guys be willing to vote again against government funding in January when this funding runs out?
That's certainly an option that I think everybody will consider. Thank you all.
Bro. All right. Well, that's the rationale. I mean, we can